Back at it again on Alignment First. We're on a mission to bring leaders back to their peace, presence, and power. And I'm in the pocket with Jayce Boyd, Under Armour All-American, 19th round draft pick to the Texas Rangers, Florida State alum, NCAA World Series. Dude, you have so many accolades. Holy shit. College World Series. And that, did you get drafted twice?
I did. I chose to go to Florida State after I was drafted in high school.
So the Texans don't, or the Rangers don't have the rights to you. Like, is it why? Well, let's just go ahead and start there,
we
brother.
can start there.
I didn't know you could get drafted twice.
Yeah, baseball is very different than college football and basketball. The way that the draft works, you have levels of eligibility. I'm sure it's changed a little bit, at least since I went through it. But essentially, the team will draft you, and you have the option out of high school to sign or to go to the school that you've committed to, or whatever that looks like for you. And then depending on whether you go the junior college route or Division I, like there's some little nuances there. So I went Division I, so I wasn't draft eligible again until my junior year, pretty much no matter what.
Okay.
So that's the differences within when football declares, like if you declare for the draft, I think you have to sign. I don't think that you have an option at that point, even if you're a free agent.
In football, you can't come back.
Yeah,
if you declare for the draft in football, at least as I remember it and understand it now, you can't come back to the NCAA.
Yeah, I think there was one. Was it the running back from Ole Miss that was trying to do that either last year, year before last? Something weird happened with the Browns, I think it was. But yeah, I had a lot of phone calls. I mean, the draft process in and of itself. I mean, we can dive into that a little bit.
How does that compare to being recruited by a college team out of high school?
Yeah, so my recruiting process from a college standpoint, I think, was relatively unique. It wasn't super extensive by any stretch of the imagination. I had actually went to a hitting camp with one of my buddies, and he had been going up there since he was little. And I went to Florida State for the hitting camp. I was there for a couple of days, and they pretty much after one of our workout days, we took batting practice on the field. The head coach called me over and was like, "Hey, we're going to offer you a scholarship at some point. We just don't know what that's going to look like because we're a few years out from that." This was my freshman year of high school. So it was pretty cool. It was very unique. So I got done with that, and I actually went back to a winter camp with them, and that was really the only way we could communicate. Man, I wasn't there, an hour after we did all the intros and stuff, and they pulled me aside. Everybody else went and did their own thing. They pulled me down into the tunnel, talked to me and my family about it, and pretty much offered me the scholarship right there. It took me about a month of digesting all of that information, and I called my recruiter back and was like, "Hey, I'll see you at Florida State in 3.5 years." And that was the extent of my recruiting process. I did end up going on an official visit. We went and watched football games and went up there and watched a couple weekend series for the baseball team and all that stuff. But my
dang, dude, that's cool.
Funny story. My recruiting visit was actually with Kyle Long, was one of the guys that was there. He's the offensive lineman for Oregon, and Howie Long's, I believe. And so he was the guy kind of showing us around. Nobody really knows that he was at Florida State as a pitcher there for a little bit. He was throwing 94 left-handed off the bump, and then he just decided to go to Oregon and play football.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And
holy shit.
So committed to Florida State pretty early, and then going into my senior year when I had the option or the opportunity to go to a couple of showcases, I really didn't do a ton of them. They were kind of just coming onto the scene whenever I was in high school. They weren't really super prevalent as they are now. That's really the only thing that kids go do for the most part, which is kind of fascinating. So I did 2 or 3 of those, ended up getting invited to the Under Armour game, and then had a bunch of phone calls and visits, basically in-house visits with scouts, probably 10 or 15 or so. And then pretty much went through that whole process with my agent, decided on, what the value needed to be for me to either choose professional baseball or go to college and get the education side of things accomplished.
Damn, dude. When you commit that early, does being a multi-sport athlete in the eyes of the recruiter or the institution, the team, Florida State, Does being a multi-sport athlete become a liability at that point, or is it still celebrated and endorsed?
For me, it was, I guess, like kind of a blend of both.
Okay.
I played a little bit of everything. I played, baseball, football, basketball, even ended up playing a little bit of golf my senior year. And really the only thing that was kind of weird is the basketball coach just randomly going into my junior year, they wouldn't even tell me when tryouts were, and they were like, just don't show up because you're not playing basketball. And I was like, okay, like I don't know who you talk to, but it literally, like, I would go watch my buddies play, and after the game I'm like, I'm right here, like I'll get on the court with you guys tomorrow if you let me on the team. And he was like, no. Like, all right.
Wow.
I don't know what happened there, but still to this day, I don't even know who spoke to who on that one. But that was really the only sport. Ultimately, our football team we were not good.
Okay.
I played quarterback. I decided randomly out of nowhere that I was going to play football going into high school. I'd never played before and decided I was just going to go play quarterback, and somehow ended up being the quarterback for a little while. And then going into my senior year, I was like, all right, I'm just going to punt because I wasn't destroyed. So
it's safer back here.
Quite frankly, it wasn't, because a long snapper in high schools typically aren't the greatest. So I was getting the ball rolled back to me, snapped over my head. I was running around for my life trying to kick the ball at the same time. That was thoroughly entertaining. I guess the accolade for my football career was I made the all-star team in our area. And during that time, I played not on the same team, but in the same district, I guess, if you will, as Trent Richardson, running back from Alabama back in the day.
That's right. He's from Pensacola.
Yeah, he's from Escambia.
That's right.
I think he only rushed for like 6 touchdowns and like 400 plus yards against us.
Those are single game stats. Yes. Holy shit.
There's still a YouTube video of it somewhere. Like, it was like over 400 yards, and I think he had like 6+ touchdowns. Every time he touched the ball, he scored. It was absurd. But I was punting to him, and there was a bunch of like college scouts there watching and all that stuff, and they wanted to see if he could catch punts. And I kick left-footed, which is relatively unique, or it was back then too. And the ball kind of tails a slightly different way. And he was muffing a lot of the punts, and that really didn't happen. I punted to him during the regular season a couple of times, and he was fine. That was also one of my accolades. I tackled Trent Richardson, which, in fairness, I was just in the right place, and I pushed him out of bounds, and that's how I tackled him, because he would have destroyed me by, like, no stretch of the imagination could I tackle that dude. But I actually had one of the recruiters from USF come over and he's like, hey, I hear you play baseball. You want to play baseball and football at USF? And I was like, I think I'm going to go to Florida State. I told him I would a couple of years ago, but I appreciate it, man. So that was pretty
that's
cool.
Awesome, man. That's awesome. Oh, wow. Cool, dude. So now you're in the world of finance. I feel like you're in a unique position to speak on this, and it makes me genuinely curious because I'm a little bit older than you, and all the things that exist in NIL and whatnot were not like, those are all the things that we wished would happen way back when, and now it's real. And I'm curious from where you sit in the world of finance, if all of this was available to you with what you know now when you got drafted and or would have been paid to play at Florida State, what are your decisions around money look like?
I think there's a few different lenses you can look at it from. I think baseball is obviously, again, I think it's significantly different than, the football and basketball schools of the world. The money that those kids are getting, I mean, it's more money than they'll get playing professionally, more than likely, or at least that's what it seems to be right now. And probably similar to the baseball degree. I don't know exactly what those numbers look like for a lot of the programs, but quite honestly, I think it's for sure going to lead to more high school guys going to college, just from the financial piece and what that actually entails for them. But I think for I guess what I would call like a legacy purpose, it just kind of depends on what your plan is and what you want to do. And I guess that would probably be my biggest change that I would have made. I had like blinders on. I wanted to play in the big leagues. That was it. And there was good things and bad things that came with that, I believe, from a decision-making standpoint. But from like a legacy standpoint, what do you want to be able to leave behind? How do you want that to last? And what do you want it to look like? I think there's some unique opportunities that you can like partner with, brands that typically that didn't exist. Like we weren't allowed to do those things. So you can search out brands that you want to connect with or that you wanted to be a part of. Everyone wants to be, the top tier, all the things that are going on, but there's some pretty unique things going on in the world right now that you could probably get some pretty good traction with and promote well that otherwise didn't really exist before that.
But from a general principle perspective, if you're 17, 18 years old and you're looking down the barrel of windfall money, I mean, just think about it from the minimal obligations you have in that phase of your life. And this is obviously something that is beyond challenging when you're in it. It was said to me in another podcast, you can't see the frame when you're in the picture, but if we're going to quote unquote do right by the money, and let's say you're on the lower end of the benefit package and you're only getting 50 grand to stay eligible and play the sport that you love, right? That's okay.
Phenomenal.
So that being said, if time is your greatest asset, what are the reasons that we as humans and, irresponsible young men, let's be honest, blow through that money so damn fast as opposed to being a good steward of it?
Yeah, I love that word. Steward of your finances and resources is absolutely easy to forget, right? Yeah. It's easy to forget. My first check came actually somewhere around that dollar figure, if I'm not mistaken, maybe slightly more. They broke up my signing bonus into two frames. And when I got my first check and it was over 50 grand, and I was like, holy smokes, like I just got paid 50 grand at once. And I'm literally sitting in a hotel in the middle of nowhere in the US. I can't even remember where I was, but I remember getting the check and like looking at it and being like, this is bizarre. And I was on our low A team at that point. So I can only imagine what that does from an access standpoint. And we talked about it a little bit, like when I got to college, what that access did to me and like some of the distractions that came with that. But as you're having that opportunity and you're able to go through it from the financial picture, like how well have you set up the guardrails and boundaries around you, and who are you listening to? Because if you're listening to yourself, that's probably going to end up getting you into some trouble. Surrounding yourself with quality people with similar mindsets to what you want to build and what you want to create with that opportunity. You can do a lot of stuff with 50 grand. You can do a lot of stuff with all those resources. Like you just said, you're in college for baseball specifically, at least 2 years, potentially 3, depending on where you're at. And if you're getting 50 grand a year, like you can do a lot of really good stuff with that. Because on top of that, your status as an athlete on campus, you can still do quite a few good things with that platform. And now you're adding the actual monetary aspect of it. So there's some ways to elevate that, I believe.
Without getting into all the regulatory stuff, and maybe there's a simple answer that allows us to discuss that a little bit too. But like, if it baffles me, and maybe it's just a bug in the system, if I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt, for these young kids that are coming into this money, to your point, many of them who don't have the talent to go pro. And I think this is the catch-22 of all of it. You're going to make a shit ton of money. You stand to make a shit ton of money in college, and you're not necessarily good enough to get make it in the league, right? Even if you get drafted, it's not a guarantee.
Yeah.
Right. So you have this very short window of like crazy upside. And then the cascade, right? If you're not a first round draft pick for a lot of these guys, your life is going to make you take a pay cut.
Absolutely.
So it's almost like all down from here.
Yeah, and it could be.
And it's like why is there no financial education or like a fund? Like they broke up your payments, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're signing bonus into two things. Why is there's got to be an opt-in here, obviously, because it's your money, but why is there no like explicit option to like Allen Iverson this thing and put that money away for, I don't know, 10 years or whatever, that you have access to it when the dust is settled and you're stable and like you're starting to figure life out and you've matured and kind of saves you from yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like an institutionally responsible thing to do, because to the point that we just made, at 17, 18 years old, if 50 grand is like, wow, I could do something with this. Like the kids that are making hundreds of thousands of dollars, like that's exponentially bigger trap.
Especially at that age, right?
Right.
Like what you can do from a compounding effect with that level of money can turn that money into a lot of money over the course of time, in a very risk adverse way. I think there's really good opportunities that are out there. Again, I think there are good opportunities with the right people. Like when you surround yourself with the right people and the right people within an industry that you trust.
Yep.
But not everything's obviously perfect. There's going to be little caveats there that maybe don't work out exactly how you expect it to. But if you take all those resources and you put them into like that condensed box where it's just like you get 3 years of, whatever, $1 million a year for the higher level athletes, like there's people coming after that at some point. So it's scary. Like it really is. Like when you think about it, it's like, well, how much is that affecting the human? Like how much is it affecting the individual? Because not only are they just thrust into this environment of like figure out how to be an adult while also performing at a ridiculously high level with unbelievable expectations. And now we're throwing hundreds of thousands of dollars at them and saying, hey, be, a steward of your finances on top of everything that you're having to learn how to do for the first time ever. So for a lot of the younger athletes, it really isn't slowing down. It doesn't seem like hopefully there are some good changes that come, and there are people within organizations. I'm sure that there's universities out there. Again, I haven't done a ton of homework on that, but I'm sure there's universities that have more education around it than others, whether that be from a value standpoint or just from a resources standpoint. But I think that comes also with the family and the individual. Like everyone has their preset values before they even get this money. So that really to me, with more resources and I guess more freedom, all of those things just get expedited. So the good become even better. The like tragic or like the dark sides come out even more. We see that in the NFL draft pretty consistently. Like it just shows up. And was it Henry Ruggs, I think?
Yep.
Like there's stories like that, right? Like you just don't really know what to do with that type of pressure, that type of money. Some of the darker aspects that you don't process through, they just show up in greater ways.
Yeah. I mean, I was naively under the impression that you got this check and then, you're off to the races and left to your own devices. And I did a podcast with a good friend of mine, teammate from high school, who ended up getting drafted in the first round after a sophomore year out of Maryland. And he was telling me about the rookie symposium. And there's a whole block of time during that event where they tell you, they give you the playbook. Here's how not to go broke. And he said something that was really interesting to me, because the kids that come from the have not tier of the socioeconomic ladder tend to be the least attentive in that particular seminar. I'm gonna buy my mom a house. I'm gonna get this new chain. I'm gonna get a new car. Like, they're really trying to close the gap between what they think success looks like and all the things that they didn't have before this contract.
Mhm.
Right? Which makes total sense. But on the other end of it, the legacy players, the guys that fall somewhere on the Matthews family tree, the Mannings and folks like that of the world. It's like, it's almost like they come into this experience not necessarily knowing what to do, but there's an instruction manual of what you will do.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And if that exists, why? And there's evidence. This just goes to show like what emotional creatures we are, because I'm trying to have this like put this out there with logic.
Mm-hmm.
But if all that exists from what you experience from the inside out as a pro player, and now that you're on the other side of the fence helping these cats actually be good stewards of their finances, where is the resistance to being a good steward of your money?
I mean, it slaps me in the face even to say it, but ego, like
Mhm.
pride and ego, honestly, is probably the biggest thing that I see. And what I mean by that is, like, in other ways, like, okay, going back to what you said, the example that you gave, I would suggest that those types of athletes or families probably don't have a ton of financial literacy. Like, it just doesn't exist in our culture. Like, it's not something that's taught in high school. It's not like every single class that or school that you go to is teaching this at a very high level. You might get some dabbling in like how taxes work or something, but that's usually the extent of it if you're lucky.
Mhm.
So I would say from like a financial literacy standpoint, being open, like understanding that you don't know what you don't know, that's probably step one.
Mhm.
And there's not really, I wouldn't say there's a more difficult conversation except, maybe around personal development and growth or like mental skills and things like that. When you talk about finances, there's a pretty big wall that comes up pretty quickly with most people.
Mhm.
So getting past that barrier, there's a lot of things in the way, whether it's they didn't have a very good relationship with it from a family standpoint, somebody used it in the wrong way, or perceptually, it just seems like it's a power trip for some people or whatever. Like, I don't know
Mhm.
what that definition looks like for everybody. Um, but those predispositions when you go into the conversation
Mhm.
usually are just based around like ego or pride that are really hard to get out of the way from the starting point.
Mhm.
But then you can also do great things with that, because the majority of the time there's something good that's there. You just got to poke and figure out where it's at a little bit more.
Mhm.
Usually once you get to those details, you can really, really, truly see where someone's heart lies, and then you can actually facilitate a quality plan around what they want to grow and build.
Mhm. You seem like the type of, I'm taking a shot in the dark here because I don't know the answer to the question, but you strike me as somebody that's read The Richest Man in Babylon.
Yeah, for
Of
sure.
course. Okay. Awesome. So it would have blown the hair I don't have back if the answer was no. From your own lived experience and what you do now, what is the overwhelmingly obvious money principle that people don't understand?
I guess we haven't really like talked about this very much, but um, from my background and just where my faith lies,
Mhm.
it's what are you doing with your first and your best, right? Like, what are you doing with it, and how do you utilize it for whatever that legacy purpose is? Whether it's for your family, whether it's for an environment that you care a lot about. Like, what are you doing with that? Because I feel like most people do it a little bit backwards.
Mhm.
Um, they're trying to pay off bills and debts and all the things that they've already created prior to figuring out how much money they even make. And then on the back end, they're like, okay, well, now I can utilize this 10 or 15% that's left in my account to do something good with, when in reality, if you set it up prior to that and actually have a plan before you go into it, I mean, without getting too much on like a moral standpoint, I feel like we turn a lot of wants into needs. Like I really do. Like I feel like that's a cultural thing. I do the same thing. I do it every single day. A lot of my wants I turn into needs in my own mind. And so I think from a monetary standpoint, when you really figure out what your calling is or what you're growing into, whether it is to be a college athlete, whether it's to be a professional athlete, whether it's to be a doctor, a truck driver, whatever that looks like for you, whatever you feel like you are called to do and you do it well, you can figure out how to live off of that within those values. Instead of going the other way of like, what are the people around me telling me I should be doing with it? And then how do I pay for all the things that make it look like I'm doing that? And then what I have left over, then I can serve and do things with.
What do you think gets in the way of people's ability to sit still and think through that? Because I don't think that is exclusively the trappings of youth. Right.
Well,
I know for sure in the identity work that I've done with my clients in my practice, for a lot of them on the front side of our engagement, it's a real challenge to create the space to just sit still in silence for long enough to let whatever you actually want, for that channel to open up and for it to reveal itself. Cause we're so distracted. We're so busy, So what's that look like?
Man, that's a fantastic question. Cause I think that can come from a lot of different places, right? Like it can come from a lot of insecurity. It can come from a lot of fear. It can come from a lot of different avenues. And I actually, I did this today, honestly, like even before coming on this podcast, it's like, okay, I can come on this show with an agenda for myself. I can come on this show with an agenda for a brand, for a market, for financial purposes, like whatever that looks like. But choosing to come on here with the voice of like, okay, how am I using this platform to not only show and demonstrate the things that I've worked through and how that's kind of transpired in my life, but then also what is pointing me back to my faith in the gospel, honestly. And what does that on a day in and day out basis? And how do I actually talk about that in a way that can be received? And it's not, and I'm not hitting that wall instantly. When you're talking about the financial piece or anything like that, when you talk about faith and spirituality, a lot of people digest that in very different ways. But if you really take it to the nth degree, the majority of them end up in a very similar place. Revolving around relationship and love and that all is one, or as above, so below. Like you can go a bunch of different directions with any religion to go through that. But to really sit in that and to find stillness within that, the biggest thing for me in my transition over the last year is understanding that my brain and my body were designed to live inward and then outward. And a lot of people are living the opposite, where they're taking everything around them inward and then trying to digest it from there. It's like, that's not how we were created to be, I don't believe. So once you figure out what's here, you're going to find what you need. And you're going to be able to have that separation from the things that really pull you apart from what that calling looks like. But it's a scary thing to sit there and try to receive that. It's a scary thing to listen to. It's a scary thing to be obedient. It really is, man. It's not an easy thing.
So do you feel like it's, I mean, dude, you've had a hell of a journey, man. You were, a Boy Scout essentially coming through high school, and then you got a look at what the world has to offer at Florida State. Had yourself a good old time. Right. And you we can dive into all of that if you want, And now you've found yourself in this place where it's less what you're supposed to do in getting right, living right, but it's what you want to do.
Mhm.
And I think that's a massive indication of your evolution, your maturity, and all the other things that have come along with the journey. What was the vice that you were exposed to that was like, ooh, I didn't have this back then, and now I have access to it now, that kind of created that spiral for you?
I would say probably the biggest one for me was just freedom, right? Like I think that that was probably the biggest cause of issue for me,
Mm-hmm.
especially when I got to college. More specifically, the freedom of like, hey, you're doing like you're the man in charge of your own world now at this point, and
Mm-hmm.
it's how do you want to set up that the parameters and boundaries around that goal and vision that you had for going to Florida State or wherever anybody else is going professionally.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I didn't do it. Like I just flat out didn't do it. And I like I've said before to you, like I felt like I was a good kid in high school. Like I really
Mm-hmm.
felt like I was walking that out pretty well. I think if you ask the majority of my high school classmates, they'd probably call me a little bit of a jerk just because I just separated myself, honestly. Like I was just like, I don't want there to be a distraction. And it wasn't,
Oh, you were that locked in.
I really was like, I ate lunch
Yeah.
my senior year. I ate lunch with my art teachers the majority of the time. Like that's how my high school years went. It was,
Yeah.
um,
Is it, let me ask you this, that behavior, that pattern, is that a result of being recruited and committing so early, or is that how you're wired?
I think it was a blend of both.
Okay.
I think that,
Because like that, for that to happen in your freshman year and like to move through your high school career, knowing that there's consequences to blowing this opportunity, where most of us our signing day doesn't come until junior, senior year.
mhm,
So you're walking around with real stakes real early, where everyone else, most people at your level aren't sniffing that opportunity until after their junior, senior seasons.
yeah. And I think that again, I think that's a blessing. I really
Mm-hmm.
did. Like, I think that it was something that was put in place just simply for that reason. So that in high school, I didn't get lost. Um,
Okay.
and I think that that came from, a blend of that opportunity being there and knowing that I could make decisions around how I wanted that to look, but then also the people around me at the time, dad, granddad, family members, people I loved and cared about. It wasn't extremely heavy on like the discipline side. Like, this is what you
Mm-hmm.
have to do. Like, they gave me a lot of freedom to be the person that I am and not really, um, come down too hard on things that either I struggled with or difficulties that I had. But then also at the flip side of that, I mean, we talked about it before. Like, I was also hiding a lot of things from the people around me that I didn't really bring to light. And still, like to this day, I'm still getting to be able to do that. And that's crazy
Mm-hmm.
to think about from 18 to 35 years old, that I'm just now able to have those conversations with people in my family around
Mm-hmm.
things that I struggle with, or things that I was having addiction patterns with, and things that I was hiding in the shadows. And again, it manifested itself on the field. It manifested itself throughout my professional career. My relationships with, um, even my teammates were hard to have because of that duality and like the things that I was going through mentally at that point. Um, and it obviously filtered into my actual relationship. So going into my marriage after getting married in 2017, all those things, I never healed from them. I never even
Mm-hmm.
digested them in the slightest. I had tried to have some conversations around them, um, but even then, I wasn't doing it in a healthy way at all.
Mm-hmm.
So
Was there a point amidst the addiction where you put your hand out to get help and it wasn't received, or was it more so like, I don't know how to ask for it?
I I don't even think it was either one of those two. I think it was just simply wrapped in pride, thinking I could figure it out myself, to be honest with you. Like I thought that I'd go through like short spurts where everything felt okay. And then like something even minimally stressful would come up, or something that didn't really go as according to plan. And all the wheels fell off pretty quick at that point. I reached out for help. We haven't really dove into this, but I had a weird throwing issue in college where I developed the yips going into my sophomore year. And really the only time I didn't even ask for help. It was more of like pushed on me from someone else. They were like, go speak with our sports psychologist. And that was the first time I did that after about 3 to 4 years playing professionally. So even that in and of itself, like it wasn't even a negative thing. It was just asking for help. Like that was pride and ego. Like I can figure this out. But I say that, and it was also a learned thing. Like the people around me kind of did the same thing. And it's also what was somewhat expected of as an athlete. Like you grind through it, and you work and you work and you work and you do these things, and eventually it'll get better. There's some validation or truth to that, but there's also a very, very big picture on the back end that doesn't really get talked about a lot, and how to process those things in a quality way.
Sure. Just what you're saying just reminds me of like all the Marines that I served with, that myself included, that, looked down on going to sick call, like you need to go get that shit looked at, bro. And it's like, no, I can make it through it. Like this, it's okay. I
can't even imagine at that level either. And that was actually something that I was praying over today. Like, how do I speak on that with I have no perspective of what that even means. Like it's like, and when I say like, I'm number one in reverence, but in also like truly thank you. Like, I don't know how many people say that very often, but truly thank you, because that's just on another spectrum. Like if I think that my issues and problems in college are even remotely similar to that, but it's, I get what you're saying.
I think they have more in common than they do differences. I really do. And I say that as somebody that has, and I've said this repeatedly, and shout out to Christian Ponder in the post and Steph Strine for getting us together. Because as somebody who's experienced that death of identity twice, going from, leaving sport and then leaving the military, if you stand in those two camps independent of each other, and you listen to the issues that come along with that transition, and you didn't have context for sport or war, it'd be hard to tell the difference.
Especially the way you're making choices and decisions, right? Like it's all wrapped in an identity, and that identity is what you're going toward, whether it's an athlete or being in the service or being some form of military. Like there's that image or that identity that's created around it. And as we both know, like those identities, if we base them on a career, it doesn't matter what career it is, that doesn't exist.
But I don't want to dismiss or allow you to dismiss or diminish your evolution, because the context is different, right? But the work is still required, right? And we're not talking about the ultimate sacrifice that we get celebrated for in the veteran community, but that's not the point, and it's like being the fit dude at the restaurant, and everybody who eats like shit on a regular basis is at the table with you, and all of a sudden they're ordering salads, and it's like, why? Like let's be here in community with each other and enjoy this experience. Why? Like if the expectation was for you to do something different, we shouldn't be at this table together.
Right.
So while, we're not talking about the stakes being as high as life and death in your context, the issues that come along with overcoming addiction, brother, you're walking the walk, man. And you in that journey, from what you've told me and what I've witnessed in my community, dude, you're all sitting in the same circle together, man. You know what I mean?
No,
So
I appreciate that.
don't dismiss your journey because it's the origin story is different.
No, and I guess more so too, it's more of just like the reverence point too. Like it's again going back to that identity, right?
Yeah.
It's what are you creating that identity in?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and for me, like I did have that faith background. I was walking those things out pretty well, and then I
Mm-hmm.
lost that identity. I put it in myself pretty quickly,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that kind of, I guess, in a way, it was like rule following to start with to some
Mm-hmm.
degree, but then also started turning relational, and at that point I was having a really hard time with like just what does that look like, how do I have a better relationship with me
Yeah.
through my faith and through that background versus it just being like how do I follow the rules.
Mm.
Those are two very very different things.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, man. Did you have like what's coming out to me? What's his name? Marinovich. Are you familiar with him?
I think you
He,
asked me about that. I'm not sure.
yeah. So there's a documentary on it. I think it's the 30 for 30, the Marinovich project, maybe. His dad was a strength and conditioning coach, and he had this philosophy that if I can raise my children on strength and conditioning principles from the jump. I mean, as infants, he's doing like mobility and hip work and stuff like that. And it all plays out the way that he thought it would. Like, I think it's said, and I don't think it's BS. He didn't have like fast food until he got to USC. Okay.
Yeah.
But everything was like organic, not processed, a gallon of water a day, like, just the check the boxes. And that's how he was raised. And with that structure imposed upon him, and he gets to college and he has to create that structure for himself. And dude, he just goes off the rails.
Mm-hmm.
But he had a solid enough foundation that he could have those vices and play well.
Yep.
So he was, so in his young mind, this is not negatively affecting me.
Right.
And I'm having the time of my life. Right. Was it that kind of situation for you, or,
to an extent? And I mean, I wouldn't go down to like say like my family like raised me in that way. Like I did have, like I said, a lot of freedom from an identity standpoint.
Yeah.
They rallied around sport. I think that was just natural for both sides of my family, my mom's family and my dad's. And that was some of the best moments that we had collectively as a family was at the ball field, at Florida State, at the College World Series, all those things.
Yeah.
But from a personal standpoint, when I got to school, and even prior to that, like my biggest, I guess, problem, again, aside from like the ego and things like that, was just isolation. Like I guess the lies that I told myself, and that's where I've been trying to do some more digging. I don't know where some of it has come from, and it quite frankly doesn't matter. But number one, the biggest one is that I don't deserve good things. I don't know where that lie came from. I don't know where it was instilled in me, or like if I told it to myself, or if it was something like I don't know where that comes from. But that's part of where I've done a lot of digging, and those things are just so hard to get out of. And then my second lie was that I can't hurt anyone or myself if I'm by myself.
Oh shit.
Right. So if I'm doing those things alone or and nobody else is, I'm not hurting anyone else, it's okay.
Yeah.
And that's, again, the biggest lie that I could ever tell myself, because eventually all those things start coming outside of that isolation. And then it leads to just terrible relationships with the people around me. And then ultimately you're not being truthful, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not speaking truth to anyone. And I think that's biggest foundation that I've had to um, overcome is like even the little like white lie stuff. Like
Mm-hmm.
I still find myself doing that, whether it's around image or just making something flow a little easier, get an answer
Mm-hmm.
to something that I want instead
Yeah.
of just speaking truth and honesty in it. That's been one of the biggest hiccups.
Dude, I'm genuinely curious, man. How did you identify the lies in the first place? Like those
Mhm,
specific lies. I don't deserve good things and I
mhm.
can't hurt anyone else if I'm by myself.
Yep.
How did you like what was the work done to
Mhm.
identify like, oh, that's the narrative I've been running with?
Yeah. Give me, can you give me 1 second?
Yeah.
Can you hear that in the background?
Yeah, but you're good.
All right. I'll just make sure. Um, the stillness that you talked about, honestly, the
Okay.
stillness that you talked about. And again, that was forced upon me. It really was. Like, I wish I could say that it was some, epiphany that I had. And I was just this man that's finally going to say what needs to be said. And I was going to own up to all the mistakes and the things that I did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it forced my hand. My life circumstances forced my hand to do that. And thankfully, I was surrounded by a community that still wanted good things for me. And even though I've had to, separate myself from what my family dynamic and what that was going to look like from a marriage standpoint, or what I hoped it would look like,
Mm-hmm.
I've had to separate myself from that and then go work on myself for a while, and then allow God to mend and repair whatever's there,
Mm-hmm.
whatever needs to be there, to be honest with you. But to get to the point of receiving what that looks like, it
Mm-hmm.
does take a lot of sitting in silence. It takes a lot of silencing the stuff that's going on around you. Put your phone away and go, walk in nature or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
I say nature, it's all created order, but it's fascinating when you go out and just look at all the things that were created for you to enjoy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
all of these things were created in one. And to be able to receive that, I've got to realize some of those lies that don't allow me to do that. And that's where the answers came from, was journaling, writing those things down. I went to a treatment facility for 30 days. And during that time, we did a lot of activities around what do those lies look like? Um,
Mm-hmm.
what are some common lies that people tell themselves? And they went through a list. I remember an activity we did one day. Uh, we're sitting in a group setting, and the therapist is up front. He gives a little bit of what we're going to work on for that day. And then he's like, okay, without talking about it, without answering it out loud, I just want you to open up a piece of paper. I'm going to tell you these lies. And if it's a yes, put a check mark. If it's a no, just leave it blank. And so he goes through this list of like 65 lies that we tell ourselves as people. And by the end of it, I think I had like 42 check marks.
Oh my
And
gosh.
so it was just like, man, like this is really, really helpful and revealing to like why, like where does all this self-sabotage stuff come from? Where does that
Mm-hmm.
identity come from? There's so many lies wrapped up into things that I believe I'm called to do, but then I'm pulling my own self back based on these lies that I've identified with for the longest time. And I didn't even realize that that's what I was doing.
Mm.
And so until those things were pulled out, and I was like, man, what other lies am I really telling myself? Like, what are some of the things that have been there since I was like little? um, and that was really the two that I've landed on, that I've had to work through a lot of, just like, I don't deserve good things and I can't hurt anyone if I'm in isolation. And I fight the second one probably more than the first at this point.
Mm.
Um, but I think again that comes with living a little bit more in truth and honesty, being real with people.
The isolation component, is that related to being an introvert or with a lot of extrinsic expectations from a performance perspective?
Mhm.
Mm.
I get what you're saying, and I think the isolation for me is from a few different lenses. I think I
Mhm.
isolate when I know that a situation might be stressful or hard, because I'm afraid of what I might go back to.
Mhm.
So then I sit, and when I say isolation, some of it's good. Like, some of it needs to happen. Some of it is necessary to process what I'm dealing with, and then it gets to a point where it becomes destructive. And
Okay.
that's where I'm trying to get better at. Where is that line? Where is that dynamic? Who should I share these things with, and how do I share them? Not in a way of where I'm just dumping all this information on somebody else, but it's like, hey, here's what I feel like I'm being called, or what I feel like I should be working on. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what do you see in that? Or like having those 3 to 5 people around me that I can ask those questions to, I think has been extremely helpful. And that's been, since being at the clinic that I went to. There's a group that I meet with twice a week. It's the, groups that I meet with on, Monday and Wednesdays,
Mm-hmm.
Tuesday and Thursdays. There's a bunch of different avenues that's happening now. And I always thought that would be my family, and it's not. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that that's okay. Um, and I think that I realized too that I was putting a lot of pressure on my family. When I say family, more so my wife, to
Mm-hmm.
process those things for me or with me. And
Mm-hmm.
that capacity it's too much to carry for one person. So that was
Yeah.
a tough one to come through.
I think you're far enough away from it that I can ask this question.
Yeah.
Um, when you recognize that the resource you want, and sometimes that's a person, and sometimes that's it's uh, circumstance, uh, to help you out, to help you through this, to help you process whatever, uh, doesn't have the capacity to support you in that way because they're also human,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's so far away from them not wanting to, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is the process to not only understand but accept that, oh man, I wanted it to be my wife and it's not?
Mm-hmm.
How do you preserve that relationship without judgment and give yourself the freedom to seek other resources for that assistance? Did I ask that good? That
Yeah,
all
you
right?
do.
Okay.
That's a great question. It really is. It's so hard. I grew up and I can only really answer it from my perspective. I don't know
Mhm.
how to answer that collectively because
Sure.
there's so many nuances that come into that.
Yeah.
But
Speak
for
for you,
me,
man.
I I grew up in a very codependent family
Hmm.
where even to this day, like going on a family vacation is like so stinking hard because everybody has to do the same thing always. Like no one can go do their own thing. And
Uh-huh.
it's very, very, very hard to enjoy things in those moments.
Hmm.
Uh, it's not that you don't want to. It's not that you don't love the people that you're around, but it's the expectation of everybody doing one thing, and
Right.
that's kind of what I carried over um, into my
Mm.
relationship was the codependency aspect of it. Of like, you're going to
Mhm.
help me figure this out because you're my partner.
You're supposed to.
Yeah, that's just what you
Mhm.
do, and that's what I learned.
Mm.
And that wasn't fair because that's not what she learned. And it's not what her family dynamic looked like, even slightly. Like they're almost the bipolar opposite. Um,
Wow.
and I think that there's some good things and negative things that come into both lenses.
Hmm.
And I don't think that we did a great job of meshing those two things together. I think we tried to force, like, I guess, that value on one another. And instead of it being like, hey, I see where this is coming from. I
Hmm.
understand this is what you learned. I don't believe it's going to be super beneficial for us as a family to do it that way. Are you
Hmm.
willing to explore different avenues that we can, try to blend those things together?
Hmm.
And again, that's built with trust and an ability to have those conversations over time. And with what I was doing, I never built that trust. So it's not, I couldn't even have those. They didn't even, the space didn't exist. I don't
Hmm.
know how else to say that. Like if you ever go into so like my recovery meetings, there's 25 to 35 men in there. And when they start sharing, when I say, like, I don't know how to explain it, but there's genuinely no space for nonsense. Like there's no space for you propping yourself up. That there's no space for you like talking about yourself. Because the moment that someone shares something vulnerable, it just like it unlocks this level of like, okay, realness and rawness that you can share.
Hmm.
And it was the inverse in my marriage. Like if I tried to bring up those things, it was going to get knocked down instantly because there was no trust or foundation built over the course of our relationship.
Hmm.
That can come from both sides of us, but mainly, again, you focus on what you can control and what you
Right.
built and what
Hmm.
you brought to the table. And that's what I failed at tremendously. Um, and so, I mean, I guess to go back to what you were trying to ask, like, how do you give grace in those moments, like when you're really asking those things?
Mm-hmm.
It's, again, the maturity to know that, quite frankly, I don't think we're ever supposed to have the answer for everything anyways. I think that's why, um, I think that that's the innate nature of being a human being. We're meant to transcend, like we just are. Like we're meant to.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that that's how God designed us, because He wants us to look for Him anyway. So how would we do that if everything was perfect and we never had to ask for anything? But we typically look for that in other people, and that's not a burden that other people are supposed to carry. And usually you see the trickle down effect of that, whether it's, stress or anxiety that you put on the other person. It's a disconnect that ends up happening. Um, the biggest way really that I saw it from like a younger version of me is almost like the helicopter parent role, like kind of what that smothering role looks like. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and just what that did to me. Like it took me a long time to work out of some of those things, and what that looked like from a freedom standpoint, or just becoming a young man.
Yeah, man, that's big, being able, because I've seen this play out the other way too, where you actually have those conversations, recognize that who you're having that conversation with is not the one you should be having that conversation with. Do they need to know about it? Yes. Are they the one that's going to help you out of it? No. And then being at the big courageous conversation beyond that then is, from their perspective, not beholding to you to not solving the problem at all,
Mhm.
because you have to go beyond that relationship, that resource, to get what you need to get out of that hole. And that is an interesting dynamic too, because if the ego, the way we receive that, even if it's objectively, they don't have the capacity to hold that space, the ego says, but you should be coming this way to hold that space anyway. And it's that whole immovable object, unstoppable force
No kidding.
dynamic,
Keep butting heads over and over and over again. And I
Mm.
think too, you can even see it in the inverse, right? Like people wanting to help you, like when you're not willing to accept their help. You know what I mean? Like not in a bad way,
Yes.
but just like I wrote this down, a couple weeks ago. Um, it was actually during one of our post meetings, the team meeting that we had.
Hmm.
And I said it with my group. It was like, I would love to, design a space where my family communicates openly, safely, and freely.
Hmm.
Um, it doesn't mean that we're trying to process everyone's trauma and difficult things, but to be able to share, with your mom and dad or your sisters or whatever that dynamic looks like, in an open and free way of like, hey, this is what I'm working on. This is where I'm struggling. I I had a really, really great opportunity before I came back to Tampa the other day with my parents. And it genuinely was from the post and from the team meetings that I had. Was I
Hmm.
wrote it down. I wanted to see what it would look like. And then I was open and ready for the opportunity when it presented
Mm.
itself. And it did. And when my parents asked me about it, I'm like, I'm probably going to share some things that might step on your toes a little bit, that might seem like I'm attacking you. I'm trying to articulate it in the best way that I can, where you don't feel like you need to be defensive or feel like you're the one to blame.
Hmm.
And that's a really hard thing to do as a father son, mother son dynamic. Like my mom eventually, like she ultimately just is like, I want to solve the problem for you. And I'm like, that dynamic doesn't exist anymore, mom. Like you can help me, but like that's what I mean by like the
Hmm.
codependency stuff is like, yeah, there's got to be those boundaries set. and and that's what I had to share with them. I had to share some pretty heavy things and tough things of like, whether it was from a safety standpoint when I was sharing
Hmm.
things emotionally, from an emotional safety, emotional, intelligence, all those things that go along with that.
Hmm.
And I think we came to some pretty solid solutions. I've seen some really good residuals of that, more so from the leadership role that I believe my dad's capable of taking on within our family.
Hmm.
And I've seen that play out pretty well over the last week or two. But again, there's such a fine, because are they doing it because they understand like that's for the betterment of themselves, or like what they actually want to do, or are they just doing it because I feel like, or that my son said that we should do this. But that's where it becomes really tricky too, because I don't want to get in the way of anyone else's walk. You know what I mean? I want to support it. I want to be there for them. I want to help them and love them well. But to have that discernment and how to speak with them is really, really difficult. And I know that dynamic's a little more unique than it is like friends and stuff.
No, it's not, dude. No, it's not, dude. I have to celebrate you, man, because the independent of the outcome or even the process, like, so not the point. The way you set the table, I'm trying to figure this out. I'm navigating the language, and I want to make sure above all else, and I'm paraphrasing here because this is not how you said it. It's not your fault, and I don't blame you. However, I'm compelled to read you in on this situation because it's part of my process.
Yep.
Holy shit, dude. Like, that is so courageous.
I appreciate
and I'm curious, not about the outcome, but the energy of that conversation. Did the frequency come down because you set the table that way?
It got elevated to start with. And again, that was my family dynamic. Like, as I was growing up, we did not have quality, emotionally, I guess, engaging conversation. It was typically met with like, either suck it up, buttercup type stuff, or like, just get over it. You're not allowed to be sad. You're not allowed to be upset, or at least for extended periods of time. Or if you were upset, why are you upset? And then the majority of the time it's like, oh, well, that's not a big deal. Get over it. It's like, yeah, but I'm learning this stuff for the first time. And I heard a really good way of thinking about this through one of the guys that I listened to. His name is Joby Martin, but he says the first 18 years roughly of your life, you're on record. Like, you're just recording everything. He's like, and then after 18, you just push play. And he's like, and so unless you're willing to like dive into what that recording actually looked like, when you push play, it's everything from there. And I tried to get that understanding from my parents, and I even tried to take it a step back so that they realize, like, I don't blame them, because I also know their parents. I was blessed to know their parents. I still like know, some of the ins and outs. I don't know all of it. The dynamic with my grandparents and my parents, some of it was very good, some of it was dark and not good. And so I don't blame the outcome of what they did as parents, and how early my parents started having children, and what that dynamic looked like in a small town, trying to provide for the family, and how, like, my dad worked like 100 hours a week. It was ridiculous. And I never saw him. And I know in his heart, he like feels bad when I say that. And I'm like, I understand. Like, I truly do. Like, I am so thankful that you worked your butt off to be there for us and provided for us. But you're not in that stage of life anymore.
Right.
You're not there. Like, you don't have to go work 90 hours a week. You just don't. But there's a level and capacity that you're capable of carrying and shouldering now that is exceedingly and abundantly more than you could ever imagine, because of your presence as just our father. Like, and he's a great dad. Like I said, he's done some fantastic things for us as a family, and trying to help him find that voice and that leadership. It's really hard as a son. Like, it just really, it is. And
totally,
so
man.
Try to frame it as like, okay, how annoyed do you get with your dad when he doesn't answer a question, or like, and he dismisses something? I'm like, that's kind of what we're doing. Like, just go into it, talk about it. Like, I don't want to learn from really anyone else other than you. So let me learn from you, man. Like, I don't know how else to say it.
That's beautiful, dude. You're standing in and stepping into your wisdom, and it's awesome. It's amazing. And I appreciate this conversation, your light and your energy that you bring into it, and the audience, man. Where can everyone find you and get more of you?
Yeah, I'm kind of a recluse in that, and I'm trying to work on that, to be honest with you. And I've honestly, the boundaries and parameters that I've needed to set up for myself. Um, Typically, social media is not going to lead me in a very good direction. Like it's more of that isolation or going down rabbit holes that I don't need to go down. But from the LinkedIn, I think it's underneath below. Just search my name. I'm on there. You can connect with me that way. Pretty easy conversation. And then if anyone else on the post or anybody wants to connect there, if they're part of that community, I'd love to hear from you and connect and find a way to be a servant leader but as much as I can. I know that term gets used kind of between different communities. But.
Nah, man, I know when you say it, you mean it. And I think this is we're experiencing the you at the gates of this coaching evolution that you talked about. And I know we didn't get into it, but dude, it's in you. And I support it, man. And this platform is a resource for that journey, man. 100%. I mean that.
Man, I appreciate it. I actually get to go back. I didn't share this before, but I get to go back this weekend to that same clinic that I went to. I said alumni weekend and get to share like my testimony and just kind of where I'm at after the last year for all the people that are there. I think there's like 55 people that are there right now. So getting to share some of that story and all that with them.
Oh yeah, man.
The reason I say that is because when I was in treatment, they actually voted me we had like a little community. And whether it was like taking care of little stuff there, like whether the washers and dryers needed to be fixed or whatever. And they actually voted me as the president of rehab, which is absolutely hysterical. Something I'm putting on every resume from here on out. But the fun little revolving part of that is we just had our teams meeting a couple weeks ago, and I told them on there is like, I'll happily do it. And I get to level up from being the president of rehab now to the captain of my post team. So that's at least a step.
Dude, let's go.
And so taking on that leadership role or taking on what that looks like to, like I said, hopefully listen and be just a beacon for somebody else to hopefully dive into some more of these things that are a little bit scary.
Dude, I'm for it, man. Congrats. Yes, you deserve it all.
I appreciate it.
You deserve good things, man.
I appreciate it. It.
Oh yeah. For everybody out there on a mission to be the fittest leader possible, that starts with integrity, courage, and ownership. And it's all laid across the foundation of alignment first. Join us in the Leaders Forum. Head over to nextlevelhq.co to join us in our community and continue this dialogue with us. Until next time.